Brothers and sisters, to the Meher Baba program. I'm Fred Stankus, along with my co-host Suhas Ginde. Welcome, Suhas.
Thank you.
It's a continuation, this program, of last week's program, Lord Meher. This is the biography of Avatar Meher Baba. We're covering the years 1952 to 1954. And we left last week's program talking about how some people believe in their lives of that this life here really doesn't count, that they're seeking the eternal life, to be one with God in eternity. And then you commented to me off camera, and then I said, well, my gosh, Suhas, that's the way we should begin this program, to pick up on that. So what did Baba say about it?
What I was trying to say is that all of our souls, at the soul level, we are all one. And one with each other, and also we are one within the Oversoul, which is represented by Baba in a human form. So we are already in eternity now.
Oh, so this is be here now.
Be here now, or...
In other words, eternity is now. So a person seeking an eternity is not satisfied, and they always consider that the sufferings and tribulations of this life are because this is of the world of the devil, and that the eternal life will free them from that.
That is all created by the mind of man. All religions, they are created by dual conscious mind. By people who created religions like priests and so on, that do not have the experience of unity with God. They're writing texts.
So what you're saying, being a priest, a minister, whatever, is just a role you assume in a given birth. You could be a merchant, you could be a carpenter, or you could be a priest.
He's helping people in this life get back to God in his own way. But
But like you just said, though, we are all in eternity now. So it doesn't matter what you are.
The soul is in eternity. All our
souls are.
Not our human bodies.
So what you're saying then is perhaps people then identify with the religion that the human being seeks, not the truth.
You know, I thought about it and said religion mainly is like an outcome of the mind, dual conscious mind. It's more of a physical thing. The priests stress more morality.
Yes.
How to live your life, like a morality guide.
Yes.
You know,
ethics almost.
Do good, don't do bad. It's good for people that have not advanced. You got to start somewhere. We all grew up in some family that was religious.
So religion is almost like a roadmap to truth.
It's a roadmap. It's like rivers winding to the ocean. They are still. But as I said, God is within everything.
But I like what you said, though. It's that eternity is really now, so that way you can look upon anyone, no matter what they may be in their walk of life, as being, theoretically a brother or a sister, because we are connected.
But our differences are due to the impressions that came about due to the evolution of consciousness, not the human being.
So the impressions are not the impressions make up what
the
a person...
impressions create the falseness.
Yeah, well, it creates the ego.
It makes the real ego a false ego because it comes under the influence of the mind, which is a storehouse of impression.
Yeah, in other words, your education and your background creates what you believe, what you feel.
You
have quite rounded. You are born in India, but you went to a Catholic, grade school?
Catholic school, high school.
High school. So, and you studied the Bible. The
New Testament.
The New Testament.
Mark, Matthew, and Luke.
Right, and so you have a broad education.
But I also
You're not narrow.
Buddhism. I also studied a little bit about Hinduism, Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads. I read those later on in life. So now I can understand this better. I couldn't understand it, let's say, 40 years ago.
When you were reading the
I had a different
Christian
cosmology.
Bible, it gave you a different look.
The Western cosmology is different from the Eastern.
But you still believe in the Bible.
I believe in Jesus as whatever he claimed he was. I do not believe certain in his life of the good he did and so on. Yes, I think that's valid. But whether he died on the cross, rose to heaven, all that's conjecture. That is what their faith is based on. The death of Jesus and his resurrection. Coming alive from the dead. It's a good story.
But anyway, we continue on now.
After I got into Baba, I said no, because we all have to give up our bodies eventually and be reborn again until we become one with God. Okay?
And back to Lord Meher.
But I want to relate, Baba's related two incidents to elucidate quite common yet most effective ways of the masters. He's talking about the perfect master, different ones, and how they move around in the universe. In the world. Baba then related two incidents to elucidate quite uncommon yet most effective ways of the masters. One of the Sadguru, a perfect master, Dada Dhuniwala of Sikhed, and the others of the revered Muslim saint Maulana Sahib of Bandra, which is in Bombay, going to the airport. Bandra is near the Santa Cruz airport.
How is it?
Yeah. So he says, a person approached Dada Dhuniwala without the intention of deriving any spiritual benefit from him, but knowing full well the inner 100% spiritual preparedness of the man, Dada Dhuniwala just took a stick from the dhuni, which is a fire that they light, and struck him so hard that the person fell on the ground unconscious. All who were standing nearby ran away out of fear. For 3 days the man remained in the same state, and on the 4th day he was found gross conscious, had realization too, and then dropped his body. That's one of the examples in the previous show we did with the 3 states. After you realize you can either retain link with the body, link with the world, or remain in the body. Then
when you achieve God consciousness.
Yeah, when you achieve the first stage of realization.
Everyone is destined to God consciousness eventually.
Every soul,
every soul.
Every physical, but these are illusory forms, what we see with our physical eyes.
What you're saying, that if a person is a priest one lifetime, then is born a merchant?
He could be the opposite. You never know, because those sanskaras that he did not experience have to be experienced in another body.
Oh, so he can actually be an atheist the next life.
Could be. Bodies.
So the idea of it is, creation is this playing field, just like William Shakespeare said.
It's a play.
Life is a stage.
All the world's a stage.
In this life here, you're this. You could be a priest, and then you could be an atheist. Then you could be man, and then you could be woman.
You can be a man, a woman, rich or poor. The people who are rich,
healthy, disease.
The people who are rich today, like you say, people who make a lot of money and so on, in their next life they could wind up being a beggar or something because they've not experienced that in this life. See?
Is there any way one could make a provision with insurance?
No, you see, because that's what these religions...
Well, I'm just saying.
That's what we were talking about, how the priests made stories of heaven and hell.
Well, if a wealthy man, like really suddenly you were talking to him over lunch, and he said to you, Suhas, I'm starting to get afraid. I'm a billionaire, but if I die, I don't want to be poor. Is there any provision I could make?
We cannot plan on that, because only the perfect masters can do that, because they're not aware of their mind. We die when our sanskaras are exhausted.
But can't one be rich for consecutive births? Just kidding.
I don't know.
But it doesn't matter. What is richness really? It's like you say, it's illusionary.
Yeah, well, when a person dies, there's not a single penny that he can take with him after
That's
that.
right.
He may think that he's building up. That's why Jesus said in the New Testament, gather up your treasures in heaven, which means a state of being, not here on the earth. So coming back here now Maulana Sahib was a Muslim saint, a Muslim perfect master from Bandra. One Hindu doctor who was not spiritually minded went to him. Maulana Sahib, to the surprise of all, asked him to sit by the side of the wall where he himself was living. The doctor implicitly obeyed the order and did not leave that place for nearly 3 years. But at the end of this period, the doctor got realization, and after 3 or 4 days, he dropped his body. It's another example.
So you almost are equating the body is a necessary medium.
It's a vehicle.
A vehicle to experience impressions. But once those impressions of good and bad are diminished or exhausted, there's no need to have it. Is that why they dropped their bodies?
They dropped the body, and you cannot say when you will pass away. You think you would have lived to be.
So in other words, what's keeping us alive in this physical body is our impressions.
Correct.
So in other words, a person though, but most people you'll talk to say, I want to live. I want to live. I want to enjoy. I don't want to go. But in essence, in truth, you should get rid of it.
It's not up to us when we live, when we don't even know how we came into this world, and we don't even know how we exited. We don't know. The people who are near and dear to you, your family, your friends, will mourn you when you're gone, but there's billions of people in the world. There's billions of souls in the world who will never hear about you and I.
Well, it's so funny. I won't mention...
We may be born into that ocean of humanity somewhere else.
I won't mention names, but a person went to India, and they went to Meher Baba's tomb, where he's...
Yes.
And they say when you go to Baba's tomb, you bow down for his blessing and so forth. Being an avatar, it's a very powerful place. And sometimes people, they basically lay their head and to say, beloved Baba, take whatever you want from me. So when this person got back to the States, they basically went through hard times. Apparently their employment
their life was turned upside down.
Topsy-turvy. And so one would look at that and say, my gosh, boy, that person really had, instead of a epiphany, they had just the opposite. They had a terrible experience to where now their life is shaken up. But what you were saying earlier, his impressions of his life are shaken up. But anyway, subsequently, continue the story, a few years later, the person said that was the best thing that ever happened to him because it changed his total materialistic approach to life, changed him into more or less...
Yeah, Baba says, I'm the one to take, not give you what you want. So he says, do not approach me for your health, your betterment of life, for a good job.
Well, it's like they're all part of the play.
Yeah, your desires are part of the play.
Yeah.
And then he says, inscrutable are the ways of the perfect masters. Some masters give realization to those in whom they notice 100% spiritual preparedness. Some masters get this 100% preparedness done by the persons before they give them realization. And some masters pay more importance to connection in past lives. So you and I have had connections with spiritual beings such as Baba from previous lives. We got closer and closer to that atmosphere. Even the Mahayogis, the great yogis of the fourth plane, this is where you have immense powers. The Walis of the fifth plane and Pirs of the sixth plane can give a great spiritual push if they happen to focus their spiritual powers or force on a stone. And if a perfect master wills it, he can make anyone or anything realize God. If a perfect master. So prior to that, when I was into Christianity and all that, I didn't know what a perfect master was. I didn't understand.
Well, neither did I. Actually, when my first experience of self-realization was through the Self-Realization Fellowship.
Yeah, but Baba is not a guru. Baba says he's not a guru or a yogi or a Mahatma, so he is God in human form. It's very hard for the dual conscious mind to accept that oneness with God.
Well, a lot of people, self-realization to them they have an unbelievable experience when they realize the truth of it.
Yes, but the ego is still there. You do get powers and so on by meditation and so on, concentration, but that was not the path that Baba chose.
Well, but what I'm driving at, the fact is, when people realize it's up to them to achieve self-realization, it's not to an outside power, but it's to their own life and their way they live, and the grace of the beloved, our perfect master. But a lot of times a person is just feeling like they're a sheep in a flock. Like when I was, I'm a Catholic
So
background.
they're going there with the promise of things to come.
Yes, when I was a Catholic altar boy in background, I always would put the faith in the parish, the priest, the teachings, and the fact that I am just a sheep, and I'm a member of the flock, and that I am incapable of achieving this realization because I'm too weak. Like most people will say, you're born a sinner, and Jesus has come to redeem you from your sins.
From a sin. The original sin was the eating of the apple in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
Now, that is a story that was carried on over generations. In the Hindu faith, we do not believe that we were born into sin. We don't believe in the Garden of Eden. It doesn't exist in our cosmology. That's why this is different. It's not being a sinner, it's like you have the ability to become one with God. Realization is not, everybody doesn't come to it in one lifetime. We have several lifetimes. Millions. What about
8,400,000 births and deaths as a human, plus all the other evolutionary forms, reincarnations, 50,400,000 forms before one achieves
realization. All of them amount to zero when you achieve the experience.
Can I tell you, Suhas, I look back 20 years.
They're illusory.
I mean, I look back 20 years in 1987, and 20 years now feels like it was last month. I mean, and the point of it is, and I look...
It's like yesterday.
I know, I look back 100 years. I mean, like people sometimes say, like a Titanic went down in 14 or 12, and the point is, you look like that's just around the corner. You follow what I'm saying? That 100 years, it looks like it's a long time, but it isn't. So time is illusory.
Time is only in this time and space in creation. Outside of creation, there's no time and space. There only isness. God is existence. It's only existence. And we're all part of it.
In 3939 now we jump to another
topic.
It's a situation about dying, actually.
Yeah.
And so that's
Mehera's mother had passed away, and so I just want to read a little bit for her, and then while Baba was in his cabin, when he was in seclusion, Sarosh, one of his Mandali members, informed him that Mehera's mother, Daulat Mai, had died in Nasik. She was 69 years old. When Baba returned to the hall in the afternoon, he disclosed the news to all. Today is a very important day and a fine day too. Sarosh told me that Daulat Mai expired today at 4 a.m. of heart failure. She had kept perfect silence since 1933, and it is said that she had a peaceful end. My dear Daulat Mai will live in me forever by God's grace. I say by God's grace because today I'm in the state of a devotee. Sometimes Baba took the state of a devotee to show us all how we can love God and how we can pray and so on. So he played the role of a devotee aspiring to God, the impersonal God, Paramatma. He would represent the personal God. So then, here's a couplet that he quoted. Something about, he was asked a question about who dies a real death and those who are on a different plane. And he first quoted this couplet of Kabir. Kabir was a perfect master who also wrote poetry. He says, Kabir says, discard the body, it remains. Preserve the body, it goes. The astounding fact emerges that the corpse devours death. He had a strange way of saying things. Baba then continued to explain. people die in all sorts of ways, but it's nothing to be upset about. People die in all sorts of ways, but there's nothing to be about. They are born again and again in different gross bodies. What I just said. But during one's lifetime, one should do whatever one honestly feels without getting attached to action, without getting attached. That's where the karma yoga comes, doing actions for others without the thought of the self, like what's in it for me, just doing it for the sake of doing. Changing bodies between lifetimes is similar to changing a coat. Some die young, such as those who died at the time of the Indian partition. There was civil war between India and Pakistan. Some live long lives, like Gustadji. They do not, one of his monthly members, do not change their coats frequently. Gustadji was in the habit of wearing a tattered old coat with patches and was reluctant to change his clothes. But when Gustadji was with me on the recent trip to the West, he became well dressed and maintained a neat and clean appearances. So Baba says, when you go to sleep at night, you wake up in the same body. And when you pass away or die, you wake up in another body. It's like changing your coat, like changing your cloak. It is an illusion. But we, in a physical, gross world, take it for real. That's our reality, because we see it with our eyes. And we feel it.
And plus we get attached to that body.
It is the attachment to the form.
You get attached to it. You say, I'm Suhas, I'm Fred.
Because when we were growing up, that's how we relate. If someone called us by our name when we were in high school.
Yes, and the habits of the way you sleep, the way you eat, the way you wash, and they're all your own little, idiosyncrasies.
Those are all parts of samskaras.
Right. And so the point is, a person, when you bring up the subject of death, they almost can't say, oh my God, I can't bear the thought.
They are attached to the form, which makes them feel happy. This body is the seat of happiness and misery. So all those experiences have to be exhausted and experienced in this life through the body, in this life, physical life. And then in the future, next life, afterlife, the experiences of this lifetime have to be balanced out.
But how about all the suffering and pain and diseases and things that people have in this world?
Part of the illusion.
But what if a person's suffering? Aren't you supposed to help them?
Yes, definitely. As I said, karma yoga means to help people unconditionally. When there is no thought of self, there's no new sanskaras created, because when you do it with, I did this, you're creating a sanskara.
Oh.
When you just do it for doing it, like saying, I'm going to help this person, not even the I comes in, just help the person.
So that's karma yoga. That's why it's a good path if you can.
It's one of the paths of realizing God by the yogis.
Bhakti yoga, karma yoga,
Karma
jnana yoga.
Jnana yoga.
But that's, I see, I could see why
those were paths prescribed by the spiritual people.
For each individual's personality.
Perfect masters give realization with a touch or a glance. They can do it because they have the power.
So in other words, a person in karma yoga doesn't get the impressions of being a do-gooder.
Yes, or if you do any actions dedicated to the master. That's why it's important to take the master's name, to remember him, to love him, from the heart. Because when he's behind your actions, you're not going to do anything negative. And you're doing it for him, not for yourself. You do it for others. Karma yoga is doing for others. Karma is your actions, your activity. It's also cause and effect.
But don't you at first, you think, would have a selfish thought of I'm helping somebody? But eventually maybe that'll wear away. Because, when you help somebody, you sort of say, oh, I enjoy the gratitude
does
he showed
things
me.
For selfishness.
Right.
What's in it for me? Because they're tied up into a false sense.
The Meher Baba Center a couple of years ago got a bunch of blankets and little peanut butter and tuna sandwiches and apples and fruit and packed them up in a van and drove down to Skid Row in Los Angeles, and the word got out in the street that there was free, warm blankets being passed out along with little boxes of sandwiches. And people just came out of the woodwork to procure one, either food, off the street, or food or blankets and so forth. I was one of the people volunteering, giving them out. And at first I felt this, I'm helping. But eventually I got lost in the action. I was so busy, I didn't even know what I was doing. And then I felt this compassion. I wished we had more. We ran out. And a lot of people who came late.
So you do what you can do at the moment.
Yeah, but the idea of it was an amazing experience. But of course, in my mind, I sort of put a star up that I helped somebody that day. It wasn't something that I did.
So you're not getting brownie points.
I know, brownie points. Yeah. But the idea of it was, I did it almost. I mean, I didn't want it to end up that way, but people right away pat you on the back.
That's not the way.
That's not karma yoga.
That is just helping.
Yeah.
But you're helping but it's good that you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, but I enjoyed helping it. I felt good to see these people who were in dire needs of warmth. These nights now in L.A. Here it's March 2nd, but it's still cold.
Nowadays they want you to go to an organized place where they will distribute
it. Yeah. Well, they say the L.A. mission or something like that.
Yeah, a mission, sort of organized, organization.
Right.
Because they don't want people to get sick. You see, if you go in the street and give food that you don't eat to somebody,
oh yeah, you're right.
It might be poison. You don't know. Those people might wind up in the hospital. So they don't accept anymore. They go to a place where they get taken care of.
We're getting a sign of 1 minute left, Suhas. Do you have some summary to wrap up our show today?
Well, I just feel that this was a new avenue. We were talking about some subjects that may not be, easily accessible to everyone. And it kind of opens them to think again, or rethink.
But everyone
We're given different examples.
But no one should ever give up, because no matter what their dire circumstance is, in the illusion, it's going to be,
But let me say this, even if you want to give up, you can't. Your sanskaras propel you to do what is already. See, the sanskaras were there before you were born. So they're the riveting or the driving force behind illusion, behind evolution. It's like a river. Once it comes out from the dam, it goes on meandering to the ocean.
And until next time, as Baba has said,
don't worry, be happy.
Jai Baba.